A little bumpy, but it was fine.
Yeah. Well, I've started the recording.
Okay.
Thank you, folks, for tuning in today. And my God, thank you for a wonderful expert summit. I just sat and glowed last night. I thought about picking up a book, but my mind didn't want to do that. My mind
Uh,
wanted to just roll over the whole experience of the last 3.5 days with all of you. And man, there was so much of it for me to savor. And I ended up sleeping. Wait for this. Paul and I both slept till 9:24 a.m. Oh my God. I'm
Nice.
almost embarrassed to admit that in public, but oh, we needed it, just decompress after all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That's great.
it
Yeah.
was amazing for all of us. We honor you and thank you for bringing this all together and leading us and down that journey because it was a special time indeed.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I noticed when I was reflecting was that I'm so blessed with the right relationships that the people I bring together, if I left the room, didn't come back, it would still be a great meeting because of the quality of people in that room and the reason they're there. Because the quality of people doesn't determine the outcome. The purpose for the gathering is what determines the outcome.
mhm.
It's like people that would say to me, I I'm not going to go to NSA and sign in. I'm just going to get in the hotel and hang out in the hallways. Well, first off, shame on you because that's stealing, right? If you're not enrolled you hadn't paid your dues a little bit, for heaven's sakes, don't show up at that event and take from it. But they say, yeah, but the hallways where the value is. You know why the hallways is valuable? Because of what goes on in the main room. Because what
Yeah.
goes on in the main meeting room or the breakout room sets the tone for the conversations that take place in the hallway. Hey, were you in Robin's session? Oh my God. I'd never thought about it like that. I mean, that story he told about such and such, I just thought, that's just like when I was with Grandpa last week.
Such a waste of time. It was a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah. So that's the thing is purpose drives process and determines whether you're really getting value or not. And something I said in the meeting the other day that I've captured and I'm going to use it more often is I said sales performance is more a reflection of the culture than it is of the training. I think I said this when I was talking about Christina's work. You could remove the word sales from that. Performance is more a reflection of culture than it is of training. Because training simply gives you the how to, and it may give you some of the skills, but it won't make you adept at it, or it won't make you use it in the right times or in the right ways at the right times. So it's the culture, and culture internally is our belief system. Culture externally is the things we jointly commit to. That's what activates the training and makes it meaningful. Yes.
We're getting someone else on here.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got in or not, Ron. You may want to share on that. Someone else just texted the group. Can't get in either. What did you do to get on?
I couldn't get on Safari, so I went to Chrome.
Oh,
And Chrome
maybe
works?
mention that. Chrome worked, yes.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Good.
There we go. Yeah.
So looking back on our experience over the last several days, the thing that makes that meaningful to me is the seriousness with which each of you approached it. Because you didn't come there to just have a fun time, or to do something selfish. You came there to be part of an experience that would help you advance to another level or increase the degree of something within you. And you thank you for this. You generously opened yourselves and each other to the highest and best use of our time together. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Real quick
Jim, can I
comment,
ask
Jim.
you a question?
Yeah.
Because I want to use that quote in my newsletter this week
Okay.
with your name. So what is it?
Performance?
Performance is a direct result from culture, not training?
No, the performance is more a reflection of culture than of training. And so if you're like I used to be a young sales rep selling a training product, I was selling Earl Nightingale's cassette recordings door to door to businesses in Little Rock. I didn't have anything. I hadn't done anything. I had no credentials. I had rosy cheeks, black hair, and a baby face. And if someone said, well, what have you done with that? I'd have to say, here's my sales script. And I would read my sales script. So it was all about my training. It was all about process. I didn't know what I was doing. But when I realized the purpose of having these recordings in the minds of your people on a regular basis to a company, and I focused on that, I started selling cassette libraries. People started buying because they weren't buying content, they were buying effect of the content. So the guy said to me one time, can you teach my people to be hard closers? I said, yes, but I won't. He said, excuse me? He said, look, that's what we need, hard closers. I said, no, you don't. He said, yes, we do. I said, you know what? The last thing your customers want is hard closers because they won't like you and they won't trust you. They may buy from you, but they will also cancel within the 3-day legal limit that they have for canceling the sale. And then they will tell their friends not to deal with you.
Yeah.
So if you want to grow a sales force of people to be hated, teach them to be hard closers. He said, well, how can I get them to close more sales? Well, don't close them. Confirm the sales, confirm the purchases, don't shut them. Yeah, it's just words. You mean like asshole? It's just a word. Is it a physical trait or a state of being? Depends on who I'm talking about. Right? So words matter because words are a way of conveying meaning through sound. And that's all the use a word has, right? Robin, you had a reaction to that.
There's a real good example, I think, of the idea of culture.
Yeah.
And it's with Jeff Gordon, the NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
31 guys are on the NASCAR and they're going around the same track and they're within 3 to 5 miles per hour of each individual, and winners win by fractions of a second.
And they have to do the exact same oval.
Exactly the
Not
same
like
way.
they've got an option, right?
No, at all. And so there's always this constant drive with the teams, let's win, we're going to win, choose to win, choose to win. Well, Jeff and Ray Everham, their crew chief, they put a mindset change to this whole thing. And it was called refuse to lose. Not choose to win, refuse to lose. So the culture of that team had them the third winningest driver in all of NASCAR. And everyone on that team, they went beyond the extra mile. They did more than they were expected, and they would train. And if the tire crews are going out there and changing tires, the gas people putting them within milliseconds of 4 or 5 seconds total. Yeah. And they would be working into the night a lot of times because there are a lot of night races as well. So they wanted to make sure they could do it at all times. So culture, yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
And
Hey, can I use that and attribute it to you in a story?
Yeah.
I was looking for a topic for a video this week, and that was perfect.
yeah, that's a good one. And you pointed out that in all, daytime and nighttime, also in rain, also in cold, also in heat. That's the thing. If you're not training in all of those, then you're only good in one of those.
Yeah.
And
Michael was certainly talking about that yesterday.
Exactly.
All the training he went through. Wow.
And if you don't see or feel, if you don't feel the purpose, the meaning behind it, the process is drudgery. It's like basic training if you don't believe in the country, right?
Hey,
You go
Robert.
to boot camp and it's just an ordeal to endure.
Hey,
Yeah.
Robert,
Yeah.
what do you think, in your own words, knowing Jeff Gordon, what was the difference in mindset between refuse to lose and I need to win?
Jeff and his father-in-law, I mean his stepfather and mom, they were racing him when he was at 7 and 9 years old. And they decided as a family, if Jeff really wanted to do this, he was going to think every day as a champion. Therefore, they bought him the best stuff. He had a champion little midget uniform on, a champion helmet. He went to the track, whether it's a go-kart track or a bicycle track or a stock car, as he was going up, every day thinking like a champion. He won most of his races out in California and was talked about as a hot new person on the racetracks. They ended up moving to Indiana. They committed their life to not only winning, but to being the best. And then to be the best, they came up with the idea, well, we're going to refuse to lose. How do you do that? It's about committing to do more than anyone else ever thought about. So we are not going to let anything get in the way of us. I did his biography. I produced his biography. So I was with him a lot and got to know him really well. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he is one of the most committed individuals I've ever known. His whole family, his father, his stepfather as well. And they proved to be, amazing.
So you're saying that to them, when they thought, instead of saying I gotta win, I'm gonna think about refuse to lose, because no matter what happens, if I refuse to lose, I will have to have done my best.
Exactly. You might have gotten in a crash when someone hit you from behind, but it wasn't something that you did. And Ray Evernham, his crew chief, they became partners, basically a coach and like a big brother, little brother. And Ray was part of that decision as well to bring that into the team. And brilliant. And Rick Hendricks, who is one of the largest car dealers in the country, owns the team and several teams. He's one of the winningest owners of NASCAR. But that whole culture in that whole organization was to do more than anyone else.
All right, thanks. I didn't mean to take away from Jim. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It made me think about Simone Biles, because she's like
Yes.
Jeff Gordon,
Yes.
and she made every little nano bit of her behavior intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, the way she stood, the way she stretched, the way she thought through the process, everything, the way she breathed, everything.
She's got new retail stores being opened up in Houston Airport.
Really?
Is Simone Biles?
Yeah, it's called Simone Biles, and I forgot what the third word was.
I'll be darned. Just a second, my chat function on my phone just picked up all this conversation and started creating a long message to all of you that was never intended. But if you think about Simone Biles, and then you think about another Olympian who's an easy example, is Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, of course, was physically gifted for swimming. He's long and tall and has a physique that would be easily trained to get to the higher levels. But it was his discipline that made him able to use that excellent tool to set world records that may never be broken, right? So how does that apply to us day to day? And I think it applies to know your purpose and refuse to be less than a professional, less than the person you want to be. The acorn principle, how would the person I'd like to be do the thing I'm about to do? Keep reinforcing the clarity of that picture in your mind and heart of who I'd like to be, the person I'd like to be, not somebody else, a better version of me. That drives all of it, I think.
I like the line. I've been using this a lot recently. Of course, play to your strengths, obvious, and be your best, but strive to be better than most.
Yeah.
Because most of us in our mid-careers, not like Jeff Gordon are an athlete or a musician, Kevin Cronin or whatever, all their life strive for that. We're not going to put in the time and effort to do what it takes for those guys in that level, but be our best, play to our strengths,
Yeah.
and strive to be better than most.
Yeah. And on that scale that I did, with know and do, and then the diagonal, competent, is that going to work for you? If it is, stay there. Excellent, expert, leading authority, celebrity, star. Choose the level you want to commit to. Christina, thoughts and reflections. We've been talking and you've been listening intently with a very engaged persona, but I'd like to hear from you. What has occurred to you since you departed the other day at the summit?
So first from this discussion,
Yeah.
what I changed to make it fit me better of what we're talking about is know my purpose and refuse to be less.
That's good.
And then I have keep reinforcing the clarity of my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love that whole thing you talk about, and it's even the video that you do, Jim, about, making sure that you are the person, acting as if the person you want to be to have what you want to have. That clicks for me so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've had great impact from that, and I've been doing that, and I work through that a lot with my affirmations. I think what happens to me is I lose sight of my purpose, or I don't lose sight of it. I leave it over here. I get engaged in this. I go in this direction, right? I get pulled and I want to do this.
Take that hat off. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I just picked up from a lot of what all three of you just said. And then from the summit itself, I mean, the biggest impact for me was the exchange we had, being helped and helping.
Mm-hmm.
And being in a place where it's safe to be vulnerable and encouraged to let your imagination run.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. That experience that we shared is pretty much the same as what I was able to experience in Speakers Roundtable for 29 years. Every time I got together with all of those top level speakers, it was that kind of trust and love in an open, optimistic environment, looking for the next advancement as opposed to commiserating over the limitations, right? Yeah. So have you talked with anyone, any of you, have you talked with anyone since the summit and they said, so where you been or how was that?
I haven't. I've been buried when I got back.
Yeah.
I haven't
I've connected with Michael, Susie, and Linda.
So you were
Yeah,
talking
and
to people that were there. Yeah.
Yeah. And John Mitchell. Yeah.
Yeah. I was so disappointed that John couldn't make it to the dinner that night. That was a downer for me, but it was the only downer of the whole experience. Thinking of Michael, what did you tell Bruce? What were some of the things you shared with Bruce about the experience?
Yeah, I shared, what I was able to do is kind of condense all of, what I'm not regretful of, but what I wish I had done differently from past summits is not just try to take everything and then look at everything and digest everything and then I do nothing.
Yeah.
So just
Like
being
going
able
to a
distill it.
symposium. Yeah.
Yes, because you know what happens is we've all taken these 4 days out of our life, and now our life is like, hey, you got to catch up with the 5 days now.
That's
that
right.
you've
Yeah.
missed. Right. And
I'm
so
still
if I can
here.
just have one action each day that I'm doing. And, part of that today, to answer your question about like, have you connected with anybody, is I want to intentionally connect with people. So I want to it's easy. You send a text, Ron's on my list too, I'm not going to get to Ron. You and I were talking about doing a Zoom call together because we didn't get to unpack some things. and I can't do one for 2 weeks because I'm traveling and I'm working, but I don't care. I want to set a date with you so we have time set aside for both of us to do that. So it's like, if I can just take one action, then it's all going to continue for me. And
Yeah.
that's what I was sharing with Bruce.
Yeah. Thinking about you made me think about a sign I saw once said no shoving. But in your case, shoving is the intended action, right? Seen, heard, understood, and valued. That is so memorable, so easy, so important, and the stories just flow. Wow. You know, when you get into illustrating what it means to be seen, heard, understood, and valued. Love that. Love that. Thank you for that.
You know,
You
Brian said he's going to do that with all his franchisees now.
really, that's
That's
great.
what he said. And he said, once I get enough of them, maybe I'll bring you in for training. I'm like, yes, I'm there.
Who
Good.
said that?
Brian.
Brian Livingston.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. He's doing it now with his franchisees.
Nice.
So Robin, what'd you tell Elizabeth about the experience?
How amazing it was and what she missed, and I would hated that she missed it, and that everyone was super, super, super cool, super smart, and we had a lot of fun. And even there were things that she could have eaten on the menu that she didn't realize before, that, you know, she's vegan, holistic, and
Yeah.
organic, and so she's, you know, has very picky things, and but there were quite a few things that even that could have been. But how special it was, and the bats and the on the river, how beautiful that was. It was great, and she
That was
was.
one of your coolest audiences ever. You had one audience on the bridge, one on the boat, and one on the neighboring boat.
It's just I can still see, and with your picture that you sent me, those people up there, and somebody sent me, maybe Mike sent a picture of me, and I'm at the front. You guys are at the back looking up, and my eyes are seeing me do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm looking at you like, wow. So that was cool. That was cool.
I don't think you could have had better song choices than those three that you did.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Ron, have you spoken with anyone about the summit?
Me, myself, and I.
Me, myself, and I. Is
Yeah, I
there a
got home late.
consensus yet?
Huh?
Is there a consensus yet? Me,
Yeah, great
myself, and I.
experience. Great experience. That's the consensus.
That was an attempt at a joke. The three of you, me, myself, and I having a meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
By the way, check it out.
No, but I had more reflections on
Yeah. What's that on your wrist?
this.
Yeah.
Something some guy told me to wear. It's a memento of those belief statements that I'm going to carry from Jim Cathcart.
Dynamite.
And then when I meet one of my fellow experts, I will fist bump them with it.
There you go. Yeah, wrist bump.
There you go.
Others fist bump, we wrist bump. That's cool.
No, but I think I was debating what to do with that CRO, because
yeah.
clearly it's where I shine in my value to my clients, and then they bring me in on 6-figure contracts or ask me to speak or whatever. And we had YPO as the source for that.
Yeah.
Those contacts are not there anymore, and to get it back into YPO is a big challenge.
Here's a thought for you.
Wait. So
Go
I
ahead.
thought I would do, and the challenge that I was having with the CRO is, we were at 20 grand. We were doing 3 meetings a year. So it was pushed back on the price after 5 years. They all got tremendous value and went far in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't the price that they had the issue with. It was the fact that they were taking so much time, because it was like a week, because we do a golf outing, a team building, a big thing. So we brought it down to 2 times, but we ran through the cycle. You know, it played out with them, and then the question was, where do I get the new people? And I didn't find the right channel. So a couple of things. Number one, I think to jumpstart it, I'm going to go back to the graduates of the first one, create a $7,500 one-time event.
Mhm.
Give them graduate, some of the stuff that you do with the branding. But let them get back together and see, how they enjoyed, then create the new way of going forward if they want to be part of it. But then more importantly, on concurrently, I need to sit down with Daniel Pope and say what strategy would sell this online, because I
Yeah.
suck online and I've never succeeded with that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna move forward on. That came
I,
after.
I like the idea for you. When I think about the things that matter in that, one is them feeling that connection again. So as you re-engage with them and you re-engage them with each other, whether it's through a series of Zoom calls, podcasts, webinars, or any kind of communication, that will be the kind of the glue that helps you go forward. There are a couple of duties connected to this. One is spreading the word, get a feeder source, like when you used to do the YPO presentations as a resource speaker. And the other is the logistics of putting together and promoting and confirming the events. I would be looking for a protege that you don't have to tell them they're a protege, but a colleague who's at the level you were at, say 15, 20 years ago, and they are already out there doing Vistage talks or YPO groups or things like that. And your gravitas can add to their marketing appeal. And they become a feeder for candidates for your CRO roundtables or whatever you call them. And I think roundtable is a pretty good word, but then again, that's just me. So whatever conveys that meaning and makes people feel like, hey, I got in, they accepted me, I qualified, right? I mean, even big ego people have that same emotional need to feel like they were able to get backstage when
We
nobody.
have we have the whole model, we have the application process. I just gotta do it again. And I just gotta I gotta decide. YPO, I'll still go and find the right contacts there, but I wanna slay the digital what's the word? The digital obstacle, and put a plan in place that works and has results, and
Yeah,
and
to have
have
a
that speed
system
up. Yeah.
that feeds the process. Yeah. And I would be looking to outsource anything that feels tedious.
Oh, I don't do details.
Yeah, good. Okay, cool. All right. So what's next for you, Robin?
Jumping on this Acoustic Performers Academy and implement that as quick as possible and start reaching out to the owners of these Facebook groups to see about the opportunity of partnering. That's going to be the real kicker, to be able to borrow someone else's audience so that's right on the top of the agenda right now. My regular website that I've had for 20 something years, it's going dead today because I'm not renewing my hosting and I'm transferring everything over to this new website, which hopefully will be live tomorrow, but I may have a couple of days of downtime for that, but that's fine. So I'm in some of the ticky-tack stuff right now to get things started for that. Can I make a comment though really quick about the idea of summits and roundtables? You mentioned, Ron, I've been through a bunch of these, and I've done a bunch of these as well, and I have some coaches, some clients that are mine who have been leaders in the automotive world that had a lot of roundtables, our membership groups and so forth. We all know, well, Christine, you don't know this guy, but Randy Gage is a high-end network marketing guru, and he's also a speaker coach. Ford Sakes was his partner. He's a brilliant guy. They used to do this speaker workshops, the 3-day workshop. And I don't know if y'all remember back in, I don't know, early 90s, I guess. Randy was doing these speaker deals, and he had a 40-page sales letter of what he would send out. And it was just so over the top, you wouldn't believe it, but you couldn't put it down. And I threw it away 4 or 5 times and pulled it out of the trash bin. Showed it to Michelle Lemons, and showed it to Vince Pacini. They did Amanda Gore. They pulled it out and threw it away, pulled it out. And we went to California. We went to one in Colorado.
Were you in the one in Orange County with Bill Gove?
No.
I was on the program there for Randy Gage.
Yeah, not with Bill.
Okay, go
No.
ahead.
A lot of great friends that I've grew to know well over the years. But you know what we started to do with our program the other day was have free time in the afternoons. And Ron mentioned going to go playing golf. I've gone to those, and I've done some of myself, and we would have some free time. But Randy was intense. We would have start early morning, go in the afternoon, and mostly it was about spotlights, Christina, where he would teach some, but it was spotlights and, working on individual people. Everyone's involved in the room, and we would go back and have dinner, then we come back and we'd stay and have a break, and we'd go out like to 11 o'clock at night,
It was
3
like-
days in a row.
Like
Yeah,
we're-
and it was
yeah.
intense, but it was so impactful. And I'm glad that we were able to extend our afternoons the other day after lunch and continue on that. And Ron, you mentioned that the time it took away from people, maybe in your situation, and you probably have already done this, but shrink it down and be more intense with the time where everyone's pouring into each other. And the guys in the automotive industry, these are all owners or dealers, and everything is QT. You are encouraged to share your secrets about what you're doing at your dealership that they might, you think, steal, but that's not the idea of this, like what we happened in our time. We're going to share in everything. And then it's a high dollar pay. And they were not always getting a lot of people to come back because they were a lot more activities driven. But the last 4 years that Jim Jackson, who's one of my clients, was leading in part of that and speaking at a lot of them, they came back and brought more people back and brought more people back. And it grew from a small group to have to split into 2 groups. And they didn't like that. They then said, we'd rather be a larger group and all of us be together. And so that price point went up. But the bottom line was the value there during the time that we spent, whether it's
What
a
was the
short
price point?
amount. For that, I think it's $20,000.
Yeah.
For Randy's event, it was $7,500.
Right. So
And that was
we did 20,000 for the year, for a whole year.
Yeah.
And
this
we-
was not a whole year.
And we go from I know, but I'm just telling you what we did. And we went from 8 a.m. through dinner. It was 2.5 days plus a golf outing, because that's where they did the team building. But then they have a day in, a day out of travel because they're all from all over the world, all over the country. That wasn't my issue. I'll tell you why I say that. I'm not being cocky. The group lasted 5 years.
Mm.
It's unheard of for a mentor group to last that long, the same people.
Yeah.
My problem is I didn't have a good prospecting base to replace it. And then COVID hit, and then I put on hiatus, and now I need to go back out there.
Yeah.
I got you. Cool.
So did you finish your thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Good.
Hey, is your email, Robin, the same one at Rockstars that I had?
It works. Robin at Rockstar Speaker or Robin at RobinCreasman.com. Either one.
When I send an email to Robin at robincreasman.com, it always bounces back. And
You're the only person that's that way, though.
yeah, I know. And I've got a few people that have been that way with me over the years, that for some reason their system blocked it. And mine, there's only 2 people it blocks, you and Tony Alessandra. Why? I don't know. So I always use Robin at rockstarspeaker.com, and it gets through just fine.
Yeah, it gets me just fine.
Tony, I have to use the workaround. Yeah.
But you don't know about the Microsoft feature where there's that little check mark you can play? Do I want to block this guy?
It's true. It's
Shut up,
completely
Ronnie. You
different.
weren't supposed to know, man. These guys got my secret now.
I told you that in private. Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Christina, can you use, and does this appeal to you, the doing a summit or a roundtable or an inner circle, creating one of those?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. good.
I mean, not in this moment.
Yeah,
That could change. That could change.
right.
Yeah.
And
that
not
could
that it
change.
needs to. It's just I was curious if it does.
I mean, would I love to do it? Would I think I would be effective? Absolutely.
Of course.
I just see how, my issue. We use me as an
Yeah.
example. I mean, the time I have right now, I need to put it in one funnel to really just move some things forward from a very basic level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christina, I'm not trying to persuade you. It just adds a different viewpoint for you. So I went to that model when I was elected vice president of NSA, because I knew when I was president, I was not going to be able to make a living speaking because
Mhm.
your time was NSA's. And so I got an invitation to speak at YPO. It was a perfect thing. I was looking at paid masterminds and I took the risk. Let's do it. I did the YPO speech and that started. And that year that I was president was actually the best year ever
Mhm.
financially. The reason is, and I didn't expect this, all of them, everyone in that group, we had 8, 10 people, gave me 6-figure contracts. That
Mhm.
wasn't the intention.
Yeah.
But as they saw me over that period of, some did after the first time, second time, then they're having, and then all of a sudden they started saying, well, Ron helped me with this, or Ron helped me with this, and you need to bring him in. And they started selling each other, and it was a dynamic I didn't expect. But then the other dynamic that really was shocking to me was they didn't refer anybody in there because it was so vulnerable and whatever, they just wanted that privacy. So it
Yeah.
was good and bad, but anyway, I don't know if that helps.
That's, yeah, it's very
And that,
helpful. to
that
know.
was a result of you running the roundtable yourself, the get together yourself.
Yeah, because they saw me facilitate, they saw me challenge them, they saw me help them through questions, get to a better outcome. They got it from their peers. That was a huge thing. But then they're all saying, "Well, look what Christina did, whether they got it from the peers or you," and then they trust you now. So now they say, "Wow, you want to change cultures? I want to talk to you."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good insight. Thank you, Ron.
Hey, Christina, what feedback did you hear from Linda?
Oh, Linda gave some great feedback. And some of which from a logistics standpoint, I really personally agree with. I don't know how Ron or Robin will feel, but one of the things that she said, and I obviously encouraged her to reach out to you, Jim, but so
Sure.
you may hear this twice.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
don't
she
want you
said,
to
you know
share
what I
anything.
really would have liked? I really would have liked us having a break in the morning, sometime like a 15-minute break, a real
Right.
break, having our lunch, and then having another hour or two, getting about an hour break in the afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
and then continuing and then have an hour break before dinner. She said, because you pay all this money and what you're getting out of it is we want to be together. We want to do things. I mean, it's great to go see the city and the sights and but you plan enough for us, like the riverboat, and you do that anyway
Sure.
for our dinners. That she was like, I would have really liked that better, kind of like what we spontaneously did in the afternoon. We were out in the picnic area. She really liked that.
Got it. Good. And one thing I liked was that I had recommended that if you want to, you can go explore the city. But also, if you want to, you can come to me or Robin or any of the other attendees here and spend some quality time going deep on whatever it was that inspired you the most. Or you can just spend that time reflecting and doing your follow through homework on implementing some of the ideas from this morning. So I wanted to give the people that flexibility, but evidently being more directive about that than providing it as an open menu would be more valuable. Because Robin had said the same thing: spend more time on spotlights. And yeah.
Hey, Jim. So when we started the CRO, our spotlights were 45 minutes. And then I started noticing something. People who had their spotlights already, they sleep on it. at night, like we all do. And the next day, they start asking questions. But their questions are not about that person's spotlight. They're trying to steal the show because they want to go back to what was told to them the day before. And and they want to put two and two together. So
Yeah.
we changed it. And so we changed it to two 20-minute spotlights. And the second spotlight, you had a choice. You could talk about a totally different issue, or you can follow up on the first issue with thoughts that came that you're looking for further clarification. I don't know.
That's a great suggestion. I like that. Yeah. And you could also do it, just give the option to do that.
Right.
Well,
Were everyone participating as far as coaching the spotlight individual, or was it just you or the leadership coaching?
I facilitated, I was very proactive, but everybody coached, but there were ground rules. Like for example, if you have advice for somebody, first of all, ask a question. Don't tell them. Ask them about the issue you want to talk about. If you want to share an experience, don't say, well, I did this and I did that, because this stops people. Just simply say, here was a problem and this is what was done. And I just thought I'd share it with you in case, it helps you. Stuff like that. Because it's not just about giving the advice, it's about whether the advice lands.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of advice we gave was this was also critical. Whatever someone says, do not question it. You're now the person getting it. Just let it sit here.
right.
Because the first thing that you're likely to do is say, you're going to debate it because you
Right.
don't see it, or it's not what you think you do, or what you should do, or whatever. Let it sit here. For example, when I did Kira is what I would call a great coaching client. Because when I asked her that question and her eyes lit up, and then I presented the possibility, she didn't immediately go, no, 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 or this is why it's not going to work, or whatever. She allowed her to sit here, and then everybody else had questions, and it went like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what we say to the people who are being coached, just say, look, just let it sit here. It's being recorded. You can go look at it later, but don't debate it, because you're taking away from the other viewpoints as to what they're trying to impart. You're trying to make it fit into your world. Just let it sit here so you can feel the effects of a potentially different world.
There you go. Good advice. Very good advice.
Trial and error.
By the way, was the settlement of details with the hotel right? Was it correct? Checking out and all that? Good, good. Okay. Because I haven't given them feedback yet, and I haven't gotten my final bill yet. But but it's coming. So I just want to make sure I've got the right feedback to give them before I give them, they're asking for details about all the different parts of being there. I like the facility. Would you, if you were in charge of it, would you go back there a year or two from now? Robin, you don't seem very enthusiastic.
No, I'm just trying to think about, I've been in a coach in 2 summits already, or 2 events already. I'm just thinking, would that group have fit there? It was a younger group, Stu Joseph's people. And it probably wouldn't be the right group for the location for that group.
Right.
But if I would have, I'd go back there. The people were really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
Rooms
The
were nice.
location
Food
was
good.
convenient to downtown and all the things around it.
The most important thing is it was like a group with the facility just for the group. It made it, yours,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest reasons why it
I
works.
think you're right. And yeah, we had most of the property, and that room and parlor setup was pretty workable. They're renovating that. They're going to create a different feel to that room. But the owner, I'm not owner, general manager lady, she said to me, your group's use of that room informed us differently about how to renovate it and make it a better facility for everybody. So that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that's very cool. So what value do you need from me, or would you like to get from me at this point, being just after the summit and at this point in other contexts as well? How
And
can I be helpful?
Can I ask for a little bit of clarity? And I think this will
Absolutely.
apply for sure to Ron and I don't know if it applies to Robin. But Jim, I'm finishing up like 9 months, right? A circle with you. And I know somebody asked on the last day, okay, so, we get access to you. Like, how long is that? Is that just for the next 2 weeks? Is it a month from when the summit date ends? Like, do Ron and I get to join these mastermind calls for 4 weeks, or is it just September, one more call, two more
Yeah,
calls? And that's
from
it?
September 8th to October 8th.
Okay,
And that's not a hard stop. It's however the calendar works for
okay.
doing the Thursdays and in between, just give me a call. Although this next week I'm going to be in Hawaii, so don't call me. Send me a text or an email, but don't call. Yeah. And I'm happy, by the way,
I just,
Hawaii, to respond to emails or text. I am, seriously.
well, you shouldn't, but.
Yeah. And then I'm going to send out an email and reiterate the 6-month offer that I made at the meeting, including the summit in Santa Barbara at the end of the 6 months. And I've already got my first person signed up for Santa Barbara, Todd Duncan, who's one of our original CPEs. He's number 22. Todd's from the mortgage industry, and he's the head of that fuel endeavor with Alex, who was on our Wisdom Parlor some time ago, Alex Kutesian. Anyway, Todd's excited about being there, and that he's a power player. He's one of those guys that him being in the room kicks everything up to a higher level. So that's going to make it a much more enjoyable thing. And I'll see if I can work out a deal with the Cheshire Cat Inn, if that's where we end up confirming, in Santa Barbara, to where people can extend or show up early and get their Santa Barbara free time that way, as opposed to building it into our agenda. But we're still going to explore Santa Barbara together. It's going to be a fun thing.
Like we did at dinner and the boat and the speakeasy, those are fun.
Yeah.
When I was with Randy Gage, we were in San Diego and we were in the hotel almost the whole time. But there's a venue right there by the Bay Area. It's an amphitheater in San Diego. I forget the name of it. And a bunch of us went over afterwards the next day and saw Christopher Cross over there.
Yeah. I've been to some concerts on that. It's a little man-made island right next to the Hyatt and Seaport Village.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of concerts out there. That was also when America's Cup was there. Paul and I lived there. And that was where Dennis Connor's crew and boat and everything were kept. And we were able to go down and see all that. That was a pretty cool experience all the way around.
Were you with me when I was president?
Yes. At Solari, which was the restaurant that Tony Alessandra set up. And Ron, as president of NSA, had Dennis Connor, the captain of the U.S. America's Cup crew, come to our dinner.
But you don't have the background. So I called Tony up.
Yeah.
I said, Tony, I need somebody to speak at the board dinner. Who I don't have a budget. Who do you recommend? I don't know. He calls me back, goes, how about Dennis Connor? I said, you think? He goes, well, let me call him up. So he calls him up and he goes, okay, here's the deal. He will take you and 5 other people on his boat for a cruise for 2 hours, but he wants to be trained on how to be a speaker, and then he'll show up at your board dinner. So I had Tony, because he obviously helped make it happen. I had me, I had my boards, Ruby, Dan Thurman
Yep.
and all that. And as we're going around, all of a sudden Dennis says, leans over to me and he goes, how much time do you got? And I'm looking at my watch and it's like 4:30 and I got a board get together at 6. I got to be back by 5:30.
Yeah.
He goes, all right, I'm going to take you somewhere, just you and I, okay? I said, okay. So he goes back to the dock. He lets everybody else off and he goes, I got to bring the boat back to the slip. I'm going to take Ron and I'll drive him back. I said, okay. So he parks the boat. Next thing I know, he takes me to the museum that he built for the America's Cup to show all the models and everything.
Yep.
Then he takes me through his old neighborhood that he grew up in, showed me the house that he grew up in, the church that he went to, the school that he went to, and then he takes me to his house. Now,
Wow.
his house is a beautiful view of San Diego Harbor. All right. But now you go downstairs and it is a huge office with panels and all the awards and
Yeah. Started saying they
time
had
covers.
trophies everywhere. Yeah.
On the way downstairs, the America's Cup is on a pedestal right in the wall, right?
Wow.
So anyway, this is about a month after I just visited Derek Dooley in Tennessee, who was the head coach of Tennessee, who wanted to hire me to help him have better conversations to get the recruits. And when I offered him a program for 70 grand, he got mad at me because he wanted me to do it for free because I'll get the exposure. And I said, I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't need to, because he learned that from Saban, right? So anyway, I just was in his office and he had a 2-tier office. The first bottom floor like this, huge. And then a second office where it's raised up for his desk on a balcony. So he has little man syndrome and, he's much higher than you. Well, this guy was also as needy about what the office was, because as soon as we got downstairs, Dennis looks at me and goes, I bet this is the most impressive office you've ever been in. And I'm like, well, and I'm like, actually, it
Trump
is.
Tower last week. Yeah.
And I said, it is. It really is. And especially there's no one I've been into that has an America's Cup as part of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get in this car and goes, come on, I gotta get you back to the hotel. I get in this car, and the last thing is he goes, hey, there's rumor that the America's Cup's coming back. If you can get me some corporations, we'll do special events, I'll help you out. And then he goes, but you know what my big play is gonna be? And I go, what? And he goes, this was in 2014. As soon as marijuana is legalized, we got all the land in Northern California, and we're gonna farm it.
It's like having oil property. Wow. Wow.
And his partner was a sheriff.
Oh my goodness.
Remarkable. And Dennis got into his cups a little bit over dinner, didn't he? He was kind of blotto by the time it got around to.
But you know what the sad thing about it was? And I said this to a couple of my board members, and I asked them if they had the same impression I did, and they all said it was. The sad part, when did they win that thing? This was in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
They won it, 30 years earlier or something?
Yeah.
That's his whole life. I mean, that's his whole claim to being valued.
Yeah.
It was sad.
Yeah, that is sad when your zenith becomes the only mountain peak in your pathway. Yeah. I mean, my biggest peaks have been behind me, but I don't think I'm done by any means. There may be some bigger wins ahead of me than I've ever even thought of, and I'm totally open to that, but I'm not concerned anymore because it used to be, it was an ego thing in the past, and it's not anymore.
Yeah, I think it's more because you got other things to do still. He has nothing to do, and that's all he has.
Yeah, good point. And that's the thing, retire to versus retire from. You retire from being the America's Cup hero. Life gets kind of empty after a while because you're singing the same song every day to a new audience, and it's not necessarily resonating anymore. But you retire to a new cause that's different. I was consulting years ago with a guy who was really wealthy in Florida, and I went to his palatial home, and he showed me the 30-foot or whatever it was tree that he had imported to Florida from Portland, a big Christmas tree just for the season. He had shipped a huge fir tree. And then we went for a test drive in a Rolls Royce. So he's like, just rubbing it in my face. I'm rich, I'm famous, I'm powerful, I'm successful. And he said, come here. So I go in his living room alone with him and his wife after all the woo woo. And he says, what's the use? What do I do now? And I said, are you kidding? You're asking me? I said, oh my God, I'm 35 years old. I don't have a clue. But I do know this. I know that if you're making stratosphere decisions, you can't make them with earthbound perspective. So you got to be thinking, what drove you to here? And what's exciting that's beyond here? Instead of back down here, how do I get 10 times this or 20 times this? Because it's just repeating the same process. Because he knew anything he tried, he would succeed at. I said, you got to take on something that scares the spit out of you. Because if it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I might not succeed, then it's not igniting your juices. And that gets back to Ron's observation the other day. I don't feel that you have any juice for this, but you do for that, right? So thank you, all of you, for today and for this past week. Awesome. I'm so glad we're connected.
Yes, very much.
Thank you much. And don't hesitate to communicate with me while I'm in Hawaii. Just don't expect me to be available for Zoom calls and such. Yes, Robin.
Can I ask the two of you, Ron and Jim, a question based on what you just said? Both of you guys, and I'm in the same boat, we're all kind of transitioning. Ron, you said, I don't want to do that anymore. Jim, you're saying, I love to speak, but I'm really going to move my idea into more into mentoring. Are either one of you considering really moving your brand and all your outbound content and ideas from I'm a keynote speaker to I'm a mentor, I'm a leader of CROs, and that's the brand. In my case, I'm not really focusing on a television producer or speaker. I'm going to be the new acoustic performance coach and mastermind in the academy. Are you thinking that that's a positive to do that? Not to, your bio will still be, though, but you're not going to be leading with your keynote, topics and descriptions. What do y'all think about that?
I feel like I'm an erstwhile Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker was the big management guru, and he was doing all these huge contracts and everything. And then he went to Chapman University, and he was the professor. And at age 94, he was still going out and keynoting the American Society for Training and Development and doing interviews for articles. But he didn't care if he got any keynotes. Yeah. He was the thought leader, the mentor, and his favorite mode was having someone ask him a question in a classroom or a meeting, and he would say, that's not the question you should be asking. Get them to a different level of thinking. So there's my answer. Ron?
That's a great question, Robin. Shit. There goes that short-term memory loss. Mm-hmm. Give me the question one more time.
Are you going to move your branding idea as far as your outbound stuff?
I got it.
Yep.
If I never gave a keynote address again, it wouldn't. I wouldn't feel cheated. Do I like giving them? Absolutely. Do I get jazzed from them? Absolutely. What I don't like doing is finding them.
Yeah, the same.
All right, and I don't have the patience anymore to do that, or the energy, because once you use energy, you can't use it elsewhere. I'd rather use my energy asking people questions and getting them to grow. The only thing is that's a slow road to China to change how people think. So, that's why keynotes helped. My
Yeah.
issue is, so I know I gotta get the CRO, and if I can get that model going again and do what is so natural to me.
By the way, quick tip for your LinkedIn, those little things that you're doing. In every case, do it as the CRO. Be Ron, the advisor or the mentor for chief revenue officers.
Yeah.
In all of that, there's a guy named Anthony Cranitti, who's one of the CPEs. He calls himself Dr. Finance, and I wouldn't recommend that kind of a positioning. But as Dr. Finance, and he's got the creds to back it up, academic as well as business. As
No,
Dr. Finance, he has built a huge following online. And so do that for you as the chief revenue, mentor to revenue officers, CROs,
yeah, no, it's a
CEOs
good.
and
I gotta
CROs.
see how to do that with the velocity because I
Yeah,
don't want change to
exactly.
happen. But that's a great idea. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And by the way, velocity is something I talk about as a personal quality, kind of like, like intellect is a personal trait. Intellect, values, velocity, behavioral style, et cetera, is what I talk about in my book, The Acorn Principle. So it's a word I'm comfortable thinking about. And when you think about the velocity mindset, the way I would position that based on my content, not on yours, is if somebody says, so what do you do? I talk about a velocity mindset as the key to driving revenue. What? He said driving revenue. Would you tell me about that other part again? What was that word? Velocity. In other words, it's driving revenue that makes them interested in velocity, not velocity that makes them interested in driving revenue. So it's about revenue. That's why connect with Ron. And here's what velocity is: the rate of advancement toward the goal. Rate of advancement toward the goal. To use Jeff Gordon as a metaphor, if he were racing around a NASCAR track and there was no race that day, his velocity would be 0. His speed might be 225 miles an hour, but his velocity would be 0 because there's not a goal on the track that day. Put a finish line on it on lap 25, and his velocity is easy to measure in relation to that finish, right? And velocity has lots of contributors, like you talk about in your book. And if you master the elements of it, then the velocity itself is strong and irresistible. But the velocity mindset is a way of reaching the increased revenue, because that's what everybody already understands and is ready to pay to learn more about.
I like it. Thank you for that. But
And
that is great. I want to go back to one thing about the question Robin asked. My real issue for my own personal velocity is my mental hang up that I got to get over
yeah,
with NSA.
yeah.
And
Actually, it's not mental, it's emotional.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I will be calling on you to set up 1 or 2 calls and if you don't mind, see if you can help me work through it.
Cool. Cool.
I'm
Robin,
going to go and comment to to Ron about the Jeff
Jeff,
Gordon.
yeah.
Yeah. He sent me the quote that he wants to use tomorrow. It says, we need to win and we refuse to lose. Jeff would just say, need to win. And the mantra was refuse to lose. And I would encourage you to use Ray Evernham in that quote as well, because Ray was his crew chief and they developed the refuse to lose as a team for his Rainbow Warriors. That was the name of his crew. And so instead of need to win, we are going to refuse to lose. That kind of thing.
Wait a minute. What's Ray's last name?
Abraham.
Evernham.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it wrong. Spell it.
Abraham.
Google it just to make sure, but I think it's Evernham, I believe.
So it starts with an E. Okay.
Yeah, Evernham. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rainbow Warriors were the name of his team, his crew. Yeah.
Christina?
So,
And many of those guys that were on that crew.
the video is only 2.5 minutes, so is Ray really pertinent, or is this just
Yes.
what
Yes.
what his team did?
Yes. No, it's Jeff and Ray. The crew chiefs for these guys are always
I understand.
bam. Yeah. So yeah. For sure.
Good.
All right, I'll look it up. Thank you.
Christina,
Yes.
last thoughts, comments, or quick question? Nope. Good to go. God bless you all. Thank you for being here. All
Take
right.
care.
Have a great week.
You too. Have a
Bye.
great vacation.
Thank you.
Yes. When do you leave? When do you leave?
We leave theater Sunday.
Sunday. Awesome. All right.
Okay.
See you, buddy. Bye.